Gonna put makeup on, but I didn't.
Oh boy. Live stream. Here we go.
You see it from there?
Yep. And you're live.
Hey,
Hey, hey.
look at us.
I know. What are we going to do?
First off, I don't know what I can see from here, from this screen. It's kind of interesting. There's a little bit of a delay and it's kind of freaky.
Yeah, there's a little delay. It's supposed to.
Nice logo.
Oh, what did I do? There you go.
So,
Andrea, her and her beach background.
well, 1 year ago this week is when Andrea and I went live, made our first episode go live, and what we were addressing was the chlorine shortage at that time. We spoke about how Rudy said Poolmageddon, and all the manufacturers said nah, but you know what? And it's still going on. So
we've come a long way for sure. And you know what? I just saw a notice on the door of where I get my chlorine that there's going to be another price increase. So we're on track.
Yeah. June 1.
We have everybody from all the shows today. So we have Talking Pools podcast, Andrea and myself. Andrea, wave so people know who you are. And
hi.
Or take a sip of water, whatever. That's fine. That's cool. So we have Andrea.
I'm thirsty.
We started it a year ago, and then about 4 months ago, we brought in a couple of more shows, and we have Heather Linton, Hump Days with Heather. And then we also have Tuesdays with Tim and Kelly. So we have Tim and Kelly there as well.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hello.
So we got the whole gang. And like I said, we are still facing chemical problems.
No fun.
No fun. That's what we got from that, right? So what are we going to do? We spoke about it before. There's a lot of people out there. These price increases continue to wreak havoc upon us. I'm assuming, I'm not even going to assume, I'm going to tell you this right now. What we're looking at is the price increases about 2 weeks following Memorial Day, which is only this weekend. 2 weeks after that, we're going to start to see product shortages again. It's going to start to get hard to find the chemicals and the product that you need.
It's already starting to get bad, at least where I'm at.
Yeah, it is.
I went to get chlorine
already
today, and they usually have 3 different brands. They're out of 2 and had very little of the last one. So if I look tomorrow, I bet they're going to be out of chlorine completely.
Oh,
You can't get a Pentair pump really that easily where I live, or a communication wire for Pentair pump.
It's insane. Like, you would think that the manufacturers by this time would be able to increase productivity, but they're having problems as well getting like the plastic parts, the computer components, and all that ties into their whole goods. So,
and then just having labor to produce it.
just a quick, just for the people that are shouting out so far, we have Kristen Malo. Kristen Malo's watching.
Hello.
We have
Hello.
Gregory Wilker listening.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm
There are a
trying to
couple of other
respond to all y'all.
people. Yeah. So Gregory's representing Ocala. So
Florida.
yeah, I had to get out of there for a minute.
Oh,
I'm
man.
hearing everything in double on my end, so it's a little freaky.
Well, you just mute the actual page.
There you go.
That's all you
So
gotta do.
we're good now. I can survive. So the echoing was killing me. It was like a horror movie, but I was enjoying the hell out of it because, that's the other part of my life. So what's the best thing to do? I still think the best thing for folks to do is to charge an hourly rate for service, charge their rate to clean the pool, and then charge chemicals on top of that, but at market price.
Yeah, agreeable. And just like there was somebody that just posted earlier a second ago, that was like the homeowner buys their chemicals and they left them in the garage and they're not home. So they expected the pool technician to wait 30 minutes. Like, hell no.
I saw that Hunter posted
remote,
that.
Yeah, like remote open the garage or no chemicals, or you pay for it. Those are your 3 options. I'm not going to wait around for 30 minutes because you forgot to do something.
No, but with that, I also wouldn't have a customer supply their own chemicals. Their chemicals are either coming from me or they're coming from nowhere. They'll
Yeah.
have a different service person if they insist on buying their own stuff, because I can't vouch for the quality of what they buy on Amazon, but I can vouch for the quality of what I buy from SCP, Gorman, Horner,
Well, what-
whomever.
Well, what if they bought the stuff through you, but they store it at their house? Like maybe they want to have their own bucket of tabs, for example. I think
Well-
then it needs to be in a common area for
And
someone
is that
to-
something that we do? Do we sell them a bucket of tabs and then we just
I
dab
do.
from the
I-
tab?
I do.
I know people who do that. Yeah.
And okay, then what we would have to do is have some type of an agreement that they'd have to be left in a specific area. And then I'd have to have some clause that already covers this as a possibility.
Yeah.
If I show up and your chemicals are locked up, I'm selling you more chemicals, that'll be in a service agreement. And I mean, I know right now it's after the fact and I'm not trying to beat him up. He's handling it the best that he can, but going forward, now this should be an eye opener and he can make those changes to his service agreement and take all these things into consideration. It's a learning moment. So
Definitely. Mine says that when you buy chemicals, if it's not left out, then you either go without or you pay for chemicals at whatever rate that we're charging our chemicals at. I don't have time to wait around.
I have two
So-
customers that supply their own chemicals, but they are out, so they're easily accessible in an undercover spot. Now they buy them, they buy the right products. You know, I tell them what they need to buy if they're going to buy their own products, but they do leave them out. So only two, but the rest of them, Kelly and I did an episode where she recommended limiting the usage. You know, I only have 2 plans, used to have 3 or 4. So at 2 plans, one doesn't include chemicals at all, and one includes a limited amount of chemicals. And if it goes above that, then they get charged.
Yeah. And Kristen Mello said that is what Mike Baker, the pool guide this year does, 50 pounds at every pool.
Yeah. There's
So what
I know quite a few that do that.
I used to
Yeah.
recommend back in the day that when customers had their chemicals, that they just take, they purchase plastic garbage pails, garbage containers, and just buy one garbage pail for each chemical if they weren't going to make an investment in a pool shed or something along those lines, and put your tabs in one bucket, your acid in another bucket, so on and so forth. Put the plastic lids on it, leave it somewhere where I can get to it. That would be a wonderful thing. Unfortunately, I did run into an incident where somebody had a teenager who decided to take the trash out for the first time ever and wheeled all their chemicals for the season right out to the street. And then, of course, the trash company picked it up and tossed it and took off with it. Yeah. So we're lucky that garbage truck wasn't burning as it headed down the street. But yeah, that did happen. So
Oh
we
my
do need to be,
gosh.
we do need to think of everything. So it's a weird spot we're in.
So speaking of the garbage truck, I get asked a lot. Where do this is a good one that everybody always asks. Where do clients dispose of chemicals that they don't use? And obviously, we're not going to use their old chemicals, so we're not just going to dump it in, right? So where is a good spot to dispose of chemicals?
Are you asking?
Yeah,
They have to dump them in. They put them in their pool.
yeah, but if they
That's-
don't
That's
want
what I'm
to,
saying.
and
If
they're
they don't
really
want
bad,
to, then they have to
That's
call
the only
hazmat,
place to put it, really,
and it's
right?
going to cost a
Because-
fortune. Or they could possibly go to their local community pool and see if those folks want it so that they can put it in. One way or the other, it has to go in water or call hazmat.
yeah, I tell my clients to either use it or just store it because they don't want to pay for the cost to dispose it through hazmat the proper
No, it's
way.
a freaking fortune.
Yeah.
I tell them to find a neighbor who needs chemicals.
Just sneak it into your neighbor's
Sneak it in.
pool. Yeah. Go around the fence when they're not home, dump the chemicals in.
I just dump them in the pool when that happens. So,
Let's just all dump them in Andrea's commercial pool.
oh, please, yes, that I'll need all the chlorine that I can get in that guy.
So
Oh gosh.
I think everybody agrees that that's probably the best way to go, though, is to charge for the rate of service and then tack on chemicals as an added fee at whatever the market price is for that month. And at the rate price increases are going up, I think a monthly price for chemicals is probably about right. That's what we need to do to not lose our ass. I mean, I get wanting to be nice to the customers. I get not wanting to lose customers, but your other option, if you still insist on including chemicals in your pricing, is that your profitability goes down every time one of these price increases occur, because you're not going to be able to raise the rate entirely every month and still hang on to them. Shift to this way now, and at least they understand. They know there's supply chain issues. I mean, all they have to do is go into their local supermarket to see the impact this is having on chlorine. There is no regular bleach on the shelves, not a lot of it anyway. What you see is a lot of splashless bleach now, which is maybe 0.25% to 1% bleach, actual liquid sodium hypochlorite. There's not a lot in it, not compared to the 5-6% of Clorox or those types of things that we normally see. So, they're rationing their supplies. They know it's a problem. I think this is something that everybody can deal with. Here's what we charge, and then you just pay actual whatever the market rate is, and it'll go up, it'll go down, it'll fluctuate, it'll be whatever it is. It's not going down. But you know what? If it did, you could be nice to them. Not like anybody's going to be nice to you. Still.
But I think everybody needs to do it across the board. Like, we need to make it normal, because otherwise you're going to have these well, I can get cheaper and they're not going to charge me for chemicals. And, obviously those aren't customers we want, but I think, because like in my area, it's always been they're included. Just until recently is where you actually have a lot more people who are charging extra for chemicals, and people are still kind of like,
well, because there's no choice.
Yeah, but they're like, the customers will start shopping around and
let them.
Yeah, but I get that. But everybody needs to do it. It can't just be, a handful of us.
Not everybody is going to do it. It's going to be the same as everything. There's going to be folks who hang on to including the chemicals in their price, and their business is going to dwindle down. And what's going to happen is so is the quality of their service, and they're going to end up burning customers in the process. And if they can hang on to what they're doing, they're going to be in such a spot by the end of the season that, they'd be making more money working the drive-through at McDonald's anyway.
Yeah, when I see compare Texas prices to where I live, we should be honestly, we should be charging what Texas charges, but because you have these companies that are trying to, get as many pools as they want, so they just do whatever it takes to get the customer. It makes it harder for the people who are actually trying to make a living and be successful and pay their bills and, be professional.
Everyone charge what Texas charges.
That's right.
Problem solved.
What is Texas charging?
I charge 300.
Dude,
So, I mean, and Tina makes a good point too. She says people will stay. There are a million pool companies as there are more pools in Florida. It just needs to be quality over quantity.
Who?
Tina.
Yeah, I mean,
Tina here?
Yeah, Tina Holland
in the comments.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't see that. Hey, Tina.
I know.
See those either.
I see you guys, and you're like,
good.
Tina says. It's like, all right. Well, let us know this
I'm
from
handling
the comments.
I'm
I know
handling
Tina.
comments.
I can see the
Tina's not far
comments
from
too,
here.
so we're good.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Heather, where are you?
I'm in Dallas.
And you're charging $300 for weekly service?
If I were doing weekly service right now, it would be 300. Because whenever I sold my route 2 years ago now, maybe 2.5, somewhere around that area. And at that time, I was at 155, 175, and 220 or 250. I was at 250. Sorry, that was my platinum plan. So if I was doing it now, my base minimum would start at 300. Otherwise, I wouldn't touch you, because between gas, tolls, maintenance, the chemical costs now, and then I would only include X amount, and my contract would have a clause in it now that if chemicals go up, we just have to go up, or you buy my chemicals and we leave them on your job, your choice.
Most of them, I'm not far away from Dallas. I'm in New Braunfels, San Antonio, but most everybody around here, I had a customer call me today and said he's paying $145 for a weekly service. And I said, I start at $225. So there's just no way. It's too, I'm not going down. So
no.
People who aren't familiar with Texas, when Tim says he's not far from Dallas, when San Antonio to Dallas is what, 7 hours?
Depending on how you drive.
Yeah.
Like if you drive like my husband, 5.
So
let's say 6 hours on average.
Up in the Northeast, I always use this comparison because it's kind of funny because, I'm in Florida now. Florida is also a big state. It probably takes 6 or 7 hours for me to get to Miami, still being in Florida. But when I lived in Long Island, if I drove east for 6 or 7 hours, I'd have gone through Jersey, Pennsylvania, and be clear into Ohio by the time that happened. So it's just a whole different world.
Yeah, I'm like 4 hours from you, I think, Rudy.
But now when we look at pricing and stuff, I mean, even for me in Florida, I was at $175 a month for service. I did include chemicals, but I sold my company in 2014. So that was 8 years ago. So, I mean, pricing should have come up by then. So I would think at this point in time, I'd probably be somewhere around $225 to $250 without chemicals, and then charge for chemicals on top of that. And I would also demand payment in advance, at least on that hourly rate for service. Obviously, you can't do that with the chemicals. We're going to have to add that onto the back end because we're going to do it based off of what they actually use, unless, you go Heather's route and sell them a bucket and then leave it there. Or maybe that's what Hunter was doing, right?
Yeah, he was.
Sell it ahead of time. And then that's another way that you don't have money outstanding, but everything charge in advance because these folks work for somebody also. I think there's going to be another recession soon.
Yes.
And when that happens, everybody's jobs are going to be in jeopardy. These supply chain issues, workforce issues are not just affecting the pool industry. They're affecting everyone. And it's not just in the United States, it's in the entire world. Part of the reason that we have problems here is because of the product, the raw materials, the raw goods that we cannot get from Asia, from Europe, because they just don't have it. And then we also have to understand that when these products are available, we're not number one on the food chain. The pool industry is a very, very small customer to some of these businesses. Looking at the manufacture of urea, which is in a big boatload of problem now. Somebody died.
Mute.
I did.
Kelly,
I turned my thing down. I turned it off.
So
It didn't
so
work.
Gregory,
Somewhere in this conversation, Kelly choked to death. All right, next.
So Gregory
Hello.
said that he just signed a $300 a month pool in Ocala. Sorry if I'm pronouncing
Gregory,
that
nice
Ocala.
job.
wrong. Ocala, which is unheard of, but we need to up Florida's rates, is what he says.
It
We
is unheard of.
definitely
Florida
do.
is the cheapest.
That's why I've been
rates.
silent. Yeah, like I'm not even gonna join
Well,
in
that's
because
Andrea's backyard. That's
Yeah, I
where
mean-
they take a beating.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, it's getting better. When I was out on my own, I think I was charging $100 a month, but I was a little bit south of where I live, which was a lot easier for me. In my neighborhood where I'm at, 85, people would look at you like you were nuts if you went even higher than that. So, and to Tina's point, there's a pool in every backyard and there's a pool company, for every pool. So they will find somebody cheaper. So.
And that's where it comes in, where you're selling yourself over price point. Because remember, people buy you, they don't buy your price. I don't know how true that is in Florida because it's like back-to-back backyards. But remember, in your selling process, pay attention to how you actually sell that product.
Hey, don't go. It's not my part of Florida. My part of Florida, I'm north of Gregory. He's coming in at 300. That's a good number. And like I said, where I was 7-8 years ago, I mean, that's still double what they're getting in Andrea's backyard now. So
Yeah.
And there are people south of me, and there's, people are upping their rates. I think there's people that are charging like 120 as a base price and then go up from there. So it is getting better. I don't want to try, I'm not speaking for everybody, just what I've dealt with here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Tina's,
you represent South Florida. You talk for everyone.
Sweet.
When I got rid of
Done.
my route a couple of months ago, full service started at 155. And I was considered expensive.
you're in Cali though, right, Kelly?
Yeah, in Northern California. And in my
Yeah.
area, there's more pools than there are qualified pool people. So, but you still, when you're trying to get your route nice and close together, because, the greater Sacramento area is 30 miles across, but you're trying to make it close. So it's like you're competing a little bit with people, but like I get the whole, you don't want the cheapskates, but you also,
have
You're
to
still
sell
gonna-
your value. You can't,
Yeah.
do stuff that differentiates you. This is where
Yeah.
specialty chemicals can be a big part of that. Talk about borates, but not just the benefit. They're not going to care that it uses less chlorine. Well, they're going to care about it if they're paying for it. That's the fact.
Well, and that's
So-
like Tim said, I put limits on how much chlorine you to get. So yeah, you want to add this in there because you're going to have to pay more for chemicals. Also, you want to put this in your water because I remind them last year I couldn't get chlorine for a whole month, and the borates was what got me through till I was able to get chlorine.
Borates, go with
Borates, yes.
Pool RX, some of our sponsor products, natural chemistry products, all of those things are designed to help the chlorine to last in the water longer, which doesn't mean that you get away with going with lower chlorine levels. It just means it takes much less chlorine to achieve that lower level. So if you want to have a 1 part per million chlorine level, go with the phosphate removers. I know that's a big thing, right? No, people don't believe in phosphate removers. People do believe in phosphate removers. I mean, they believe in the product, but they don't believe that phosphates are a problem. But whether somebody believes that they're a problem or not, the reality of it is you will use less chlorine if you have less phosphates in the water. And right
Yep.
now, chlorine is a problem.
I'll be honest. I used to be one of those people that never used phosphate remover or thought it was a problem. But then when we started having the shortage, I was looking into every single option that I could to reduce the chlorine need. And so I started, like I said, I had the boric acid. I put a little bit of phosphate remover and enzyme in every single week, be on top of your filter cleanings though, like don't let those slack, but all those things, the Pool RX, like you have to, with the cost of chemicals, just like chlorine and tabs alone, using those products even decreases the cost if you were always doing things. So here's the thing. My dad was always like, oh, phosphates aren't an issue. You just shock the crap out of the pool. It's cheap. Chlorine's cheap. But then when this chlorine shortage happened and he saw the prices going up, that's not the cheapest way of getting rid of it anymore.
No, and Tina made a couple comments. She says, you will get what you pay for if they choose to be cheap, red flag, move on. All these companies are buying up companies to monopolize, and this really is the time to turn tables and change the appropriate fee to be the company that can be the best. And then she also said, Pool RX will stay in the pool if not done properly, which hands down, yes, that copper in there you have to keep track of. And then Kristen said, we are 2,500 out of the tap in Charleston. I'm not sure what she saw. I guess phosphate. She's 2,500 parts of phosphates. And then Kristen also said it drops like snot. Don't read that out loud. Sorry,
Oops.
I read that.
Yeah, but Kristen, are you right on top of that river, or is it your municipality is using phosphates for water treatment? I know the river, anybody I know that's right near that river draws an extremely high phosphate level.
Also, when you're in like farming
You're welcome,
areas,
Kristen.
If you're in farming areas, when I did research on phosphates, you'll have higher phosphates out
that
of the
in
tap.
golf courses, but
Yeah.
her
Mhm.
situations, that's just something that
Yeah.
occurs a lot in Charleston area.
Yeah, and Tina's like phosphate remover, especially with saltwater pools in Florida's need to be a must. I think my deal on the phosphate remover, especially here with all the pollen, because when phosphates get added to that water, even though like I get customers all the time that call me, they're like, well, I've got chlorine, I've got cyanuric, but I'm still getting a shit ton of algae. Well, pollen, algicides, clippings from your backyard, all of that adds into it. You get the phosphates and, phosphate remover, bam, they're gone in a week. So we don't really have that problem because I utilize phosphate remover. And if you use that as an ongoing, then it's not so bad.
I had a customer that had high phosphates, and I'm like, yeah, if phosphates are high, we'll have to put some phosphate remover in to help with the issues. And he's like, but nothing has fallen into my pool. So how do I have phosphates? I'm like, well, sir, the fill water. Second, the trees have pollen on them, and we've just had a couple rainstorms, and we haven't had rain in almost 9 months. I'm like, so that's how it gets in the water. It's not just stuff you see, it's also stuff you don't see.
So
it all
what do y'all
comes down
think
to
about
educating the customer.
Yes, hands down education. What do y'all think about the Janie's new True Dose that they have coming out? The chemical controller. Has anybody used that or tried it?
What is it?
called?
True Dose. It's the
No.
pH and OPR monitor, and then adds the chlorine, as needed.
Oh, those
I've
make
used- I've
those
used
make
several
things way
devices like that.
easier. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean-
but the J&D in particular, like I didn't even know they
No.
had it until I just saw it come through.
Wow.
No, I haven't looked at the Jandy stuff at all when it comes to chemical feeders. Most of the ones I see are Hayward or Pentair or Rollichem.
I have one Rollichem system. I don't like it.
Oh, I hated it.
Yeah.
Automation on residential pools is also one of those things that's going to help tremendously
Yeah.
as we go through these shortages, because it keeps us from overdosing and makes sure that you have the right amount of product. And that's key also. Dosing by hand. I mean, even just accurately measuring the chemical that you put in, it's not something that people on a large scale do. A lot of people do, but not everybody. I would say probably the lion's share of folks out there in the field do not.
The
An
only
orange-
time I measure is startups. That's it.
Otherwise, it's just glug, glug, glug.
I've started noticing builders starting to sell like UV ozone, AOP, ORP and pH readers. I've seen a lot more too. Like they're understanding, hey, we need to put something on these pools to help the customer that, just invested in this, since chemicals are hard to come by.
Didn't one of you get a liquidator? Is that what that's called? Or yes, did you install it? Did you use it?
I haven't used it yet, but I do know, I have one friend, Nathan, he has one on every single one of his pools on his route, and he loves them. He
That's
says
something you can sell that you can make more income on, that's going to benefit your customer. That you can go with an automation for acid. If saltwater pools, I mean, you might as well.
Saltwater pools should always have a acid feeding tank. I'm sorry, that will just salt everything, especially when it's a new surface.
I agree. I agree.
Greg
And when
says he
I-
likes to walk back and forth with gallon jugs of chlorine. I think that's what it says.
I'm not walking back and forth a truck with 1 gallon of chlorine. Don't worry, Gregory. Us women will handle it for you. We're strong.
No, but
1 gallon. I do 2.5 gallons.
I've been trying to get those. You drive up and refill your carboys or your 2.5 gallon jugs. Is that what you do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have that here. And I've been trying to get them to consider doing that in Texas. I don't know if it's a code issue or anything like that, but it would really be helpful, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
Gallon
I mean,
containers. I think
works
there's a
for
lot
me,
with
yeah.
shipping and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a West Coast thing with the gallon containers.
We have a company called Namco that if I had a warehouse or a commercial facility and bought a 250 gallon tote, they would come refill it. They're 45 minutes from me, north of me, and it's free delivery, and it's $1.58 a gallon
Wow.
for 12.5% liquid chlorine. I just wish I had a facility to keep it.
I would build one at $1.58 a gallon.
No kidding.
But yeah, so this is going to be the rise of the specialty chemical. That's what it's going to come down to this year. If you've not used them before, if you've not believed in them before, if you didn't think it was necessary, if you thought it was just something for homeowners, because you know what, they do all serve a purpose. They are for preventative measures.
I love me
And
some enzymes.
The whole
Love 'em.
goal is that, homeowners typically aren't as on top of their pools as pool professionals are. But when you go out in the field, all you need is chlorine and acid, right? H2O and acid. So just get the all you need is your chlorine, your alkalinity adjusters, and the main things for balance. And if you stay on top of it, we're good to go, with the exception to filtration or circulation issues, things along those lines. But now we need those things also, because all of those things are designed to give us a little bit of a break. And that little bit of a break is in helping the chlorine to last longer in the water by taking out the things that would typically use up chlorine. This way, the only thing that it needs to account for is the disinfection and sanitation, and it doesn't need to deal with the schmutz and all that other fakak, the gack that gets in the water.
No.
And if you guys don't know how to use these specialty chemicals or have questions, you can always contact the chemical reps and they will educate you on their products.
Oh, no. Forget the reps. Just bypass it. Just call Rudy.
I will help you. Yes, call me. Send me an email, rudy@cpoclass.com. I will be happy to take your questions.
We should
And
get
I
you a
will help you
CPO
out.
signal.
CPO, like the bat signal.
The bat
Yeah,
signal.
but for
Bad
CPO.
signal.
Help, Rudy.
Oh
The
my
bat,
God,
yeah.
that'd be hilarious.
There
Well,
you
let's
go.
talk about John's favorite stuff, aluminum, or not aluminum, but
Alum.
There you go.
Alum.
There's
I like
aluminum in it.
aluminum.
There's
There is
aluminum
aluminum
in
in there,
Sulfate, I mean,
but
yeah.
aluminum,
Okay.
yeah, aluminum sulfate. So let's talk about that because we're getting a lot of more people that are more interested in that coming up, and John's been like blowing up
I don't know.
everybody's
Anybody
feed on
on
that.
anybody here want to talk about alum? We have a whole bunch of people. Well, we don't have a whole bunch of people. We got a good amount of people. But anybody listening want to talk about aluminum sulfate? Any
See?
questions?
See,
What?
see,
What? See what?
Aluminum.
Aluminium. So
yeah.
the oldest water treatment chemical that we still use today. It can be tracked back to 1500 BC. There is evidence of this being used in Egypt and Rome back at that time frame. So nothing has as long a track history in water treatment as aluminum sulfate. It can be used for a lot of different things. We've been doing some experimentation. Obviously, there's the whole flock thing, which is the main thing that it's used for. So we can use alum in a specific dose in order to drop everything in a body of water. So it does more than the liquid clarifiers do. It creates an aluminum hydroxide sludge, if you will, that collects everything on the way down, settles to the floor of the pool, and then you do a vac to waste. The dose is hefty. For a swamp, we're looking at between 4 to 6 pounds per 10,000 gallons of water. So it's a hefty dose, but we're also buying 50-pound bags of product that are earmarked for water treatment center. And that's running anywhere between, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, we're between 30 to 50 pounds of $30 to $50 per 50-pound bag. So we're looking at $1 or less per pound. So that 4 to 6 pound dose isn't really all that expensive. I saw
Any concerns about the vac to waste in the grass or no? That was a question.
It
from
really
Joel.
just depends on the type of the grass. It's a little bit acidic as far as the product goes, but you can actually go into lawn and garden centers and find that they use alum for fertilizer or earth treatments for hydrangea and things along those lines. So it comes down to the specific plant. I mean, it does have its own pH, but that holds true with anything. I mean, Joel, if you have a pool full of copper sulfate and you backwash that across the lawn, you're going to kill all that grass. So
Yeah,
we have
he's
But
done
it's
that.
for
So
ponds
Chris,
and stuff too. So it just all
yeah.
depends.
Getting
So
of the light.
So Kristen said, Rudy,
Yes.
can we bring up the beginning of the pool life? It worked.
No, Kristen-
I've used it
Chris-
on 2 other black algae pools just like it.
Kristen has the weirdest friggin' black algae pools that you'll see. These things, they don't grow traditional. They grow black algae, but it's like black algae orb pimples.
swamp thing, black algae.
No, they're like these mystical orbs from outer space. She has some kind of alien black algae growing in her pools.
Ew.
So,
All right, I'm gonna have to
Oh
look at
my
your page.
goodness.
but
Hold on.
she's got pictures somewhere. She shared them
Hold
with
on.
me. They're pretty gross.
I remember her
Kristen,
posting.
where
it.
are
and
the
they-
pictures at?
and they
Where'd you post 'em?
breathe. They breathe on their own. It's really wicked. But
Ew, breathe.
she has breathing spherical alien black algae. I guess
Why'd
that's
you get so
it
close
could
to
possibly be venomous. I don't know. But
Venomous.
venomous black algae. So again, we all know black algae cyanobacteria, so we know that. So we can also use alum. Thank you, Tina. We can also use alum to treat black algae and any other type of algae as well. We use copper sulfate, we use silver, we know that works. In fact, any heavy metal will lyse bacteria. It causes disruption of the cell membrane, so basically it spills its guts.
Wait,
That's
so I
what
can
heavy
put.
metals do.
So I have black algae in a commercial pool right now that I've written up a couple of times now, and it's gotten worse after I went on vacation and nobody took care of my pools for me. So if I went with alum, like would I have to brush it all first, or just the alum's gonna kill the black algae.
It depends on the dose, but if you add alum at the rates that you see John doing, or the rates that I've done, where you're upwards of 8.33 pounds per 10,000 gallons, that's 100 parts per million of aluminum sulfate, which is about 14 parts per million of aluminum. Yeah, you'll see it fall right off the walls.
Oh, that's crazy. Because I think this one's like around, well, it's over 50,000 gallons, but it's not.
Now, the
It's
second
not one
part
of
of
the
that,
bigger ones.
you said vacation. So
Mhm.
we're going to have you explain what a vacation is later, because I'm pretty sure that's not what you did.
It was
But-
not a vacation.
But so we can use aluminum sulfate to kill algae. We can use aluminum sulfate to clear water. We can use aluminum sulfate to rid the water of arsenic, cryptosporidium, giardia, phosphates. Phosphates. Alum will drop phosphates. It doesn't drop phosphates near as well as lanthanum, but it will drop it out. Lanthanum is another heavy metal that'll drop phosphates at a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you want to drop 200 parts per billion of phosphates, you'd need to add 200 parts per billion of lanthanum to the water. Aluminum sulfate requires more product. It's 4-to-1. So for that 200 parts per billion of phosphates, we'd need to add 800 parts per billion of aluminum sulfate to drop that out. But it does still work, and it is inexpensive. So that's another benefit of the product. And this isn't something that's foreign. They use it in hospitals as a blood coagulant. You know that. They use it in lake and pond treatment now because it doesn't harm the fish. I think it hurts snails.
It's snail. I was about to say it's
Snail
like
is what
some
you
weird,
said, right?
stupid stuff. Yeah.
So you do have to watch if you're going to throw it in a lake or a pond. Or Joel asked about backwashing. In Florida, we do actually have some endangered species of apple snails that this will kill, that you have to look out for. But aside from that, you should be okay. Lake and pond, like pickle juice, is 110 parts per million aluminum sulfate. That's more than John's putting in pools to lower cyanuric acid, which it will also
Just dump
do.
pickle juice. Just dump pickle juice in the pool.
You could just dump the pickle juice in the water, but
Is that why
you know,
pickle
per
juice is good for
10,000.
hangovers? Because it pulls
Yes.
everything out.
Yes.
That is
No, but-
so funny.
So you do eat it. A lot of people eat it. In fact, back in the 1st century, ancient Chinese medicine, they used alum as an herb for medicinal purposes. So they would use it to treat illnesses and ailments, but then they would also take it and stir it into large barrels and let the debris settle out and then drink the water from the surface as well. So this product has been around a really, 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 really long time. In fact, the first time it was actually named was in 76 AD, and it was a gentleman named Pliny the Elder. Tim's looking at me like, all right, is he telling the truth? What's he's making stuff up, right?
Right. Where's
So-
this-
Pickle
I've heard
juice
his
and
name.
chicken.
Pliny
I'm gonna
the-
I've
read the
heard
book.
his name. Oh,
Where's the
Pliny
book?
the
Yeah.
Elder, and well, you can. His book he wrote it down. It was the Book of Natural History, which was written up until that time, which was obviously a less thicker book than it is now because more shit's happened, right? But unfortunately, he was killed 2 years after he named aluminum sulfate, or he named aluminum. He called it aluminium, which the rest of the world still calls aluminum aluminium. We changed the name to aluminum in the 30s, but he died 2 years after that in the volcanoes of Pompeii. He was trying to save people. So that's, this stuff has been around for a long time.
So Gregory's comment, pickle juice and chicken, that's actually a reference back to our first few episodes.
That
Remember when I told
is-
everybody about the ranch pickles?
And have
and
you done
then
that yet?
Oh yeah, no, it's delicious. And then you put the
Okay.
chicken in the pickle juice when you're done eating the ranch pickles.
What?
Yeah, well,
Ew.
you marinate the chicken in it, then you cook the chicken.
Our
Chicken.
our first few episodes came with TikTok recipes that Andrea would try
Yeah.
out and then
I
tell
should get
everybody
back to
about
that.
the success of them. So it was a
Oh
hit.
my God.
Yeah,
So,
I should get back to doing that.
yeah.
Ew.
I do it anyway. I might as well tell everybody about
I'd be
it.
asking if you're pregnant. Pickle juice and ice cream, like kind of do.
I will never
60
be pregnant again.
60% of the municipalities in the United States now use aluminum sulfate to treat your drinking water. So when you add alum to your pool, you're not treating that water with aluminum sulfate for the first time. What
Hey,
you're doing
Shannon.
is you're treating it again. And I'm looking around. Where's Shannon? So
Behind
we're
you.
treating it
Listen,
with aluminum
Rudy,
sulfate again.
Rudy,
Yes.
you can have your
Yes.
Zoom window up like and minimized and then
My phone.
no, you could do it on your computer and have it minimized and pinned on top. And then I have the comments
I don't
next
wanna.
to your face.
Oh,
I mean,
like
or you can just be
Shannon.
like me and have 3
Shannon's
windows
cool.
and have one on
Or
each.
there's you could be like Heather
I
and be a
like that
nerd.
design. I want 3 screens.
I
Pliny
had
the
4.
Elder makes
I
great
had a-
beer. That's true, Joel.
I
Think
had
so.
I had 4 monitors at once where it looked like I was boxed in a box, but my husband was like, we gotta change this to 3. So I had like 1 monitor here and then all 3. So I had to go back to 3 because hubby didn't like me being boxed in with the monitors. I was
So
like,
here's your tips.
Too
Here's your
too much
3 tips.
Matrix.
Free
I know.
2 free
Matrix.
tips. 2 free tips for me today for you guys out there that battle mustard algae on the reg. Here we go. First one, keep your calcium hardness levels on the low side of your acceptable range. If mustard algae is a problem in your area, or you have a pool where reoccurring mustard algae is a problem, yellow algae, and of course the scientific name for mustard algae is diatoms, we want to keep the calcium level lower because diatoms prefer hard water. So we don't want it up 300, 400 parts per million. We want it 200 if we are able to. The other thing that we need to do is keep that water moving. They like slow moving water. That's very inviting to a diatom. When it gets into a body of water and it has these conditions, then that's when it establishes a foothold. Once it establishes a foothold, it's very easy for it to expand beyond that. But the foothold is the key. That's the hardest thing for it to do. But once it gets that anchor position,
anchor baby.
stop it. But once it gets that anchor position, it basically is, it's an anchored diatom, right? Once it gets in there, then it can spread from there and it makes, yeah. Anyway, then it can grow from there and it's a lot harder to control. Like,
Aim those returns down, Gregory says. And Shannon
Yes.
says, always in my area.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing that you should know about diatoms is a diatom is the only thing on the planet that will consume silicates.
What's
It
a
will
silicate?
What is a silicate?
Yeah.
Well, we know what
Let's dive in that.
silica, we know what silica is, right? Silica. So we use that in pools. Guess what?
I
There's
don't know
silica
what
in your-
silica is. Let's describe it for me.
It's sometimes known as water glass.
It's used in
Clear.
sand filters.
Do you ever see
Sand
that little
filter.
packet, the little packet that comes with your electronic stuff that says "Don't eat this"? Well, stop.
Oh, or your
Why,
shoes.
yes,
They come in
but
women's shoes.
Yeah.
But I like
friggin' eating it.
playing with the balls in it. So
Oh my
Okay.
God.
This is where you guys left off yesterday, isn't it?
This
So-
usually gets edited. Yeah, this kind of stuff.
Well, there's no editing tonight, so here's
Oh
where
my
we're
gosh.
at. So keep that in mind. If you also have problems with mustard algae and you have, well, obviously you can't do anything about your pool shell. It's going to be what it is. There's silica in it, and that's just how it is. However, if you've tried going with the lower calcium hardness level and you've tried increasing your water circulation, like Gregory said, aim the jets down. Gregory's ready. Replace your friggin' filter. Sand filters use silica sand. Diatoms need
Mm.
silica. DE filters use
That's-
diatoms, but it's the diatoms, the cell wall of the diatom is what DE is. It's preserved silica. That's what they make the cell wall out of. It's called water glass. That's what they
Yep.
use. This is preserved over billions of years, and we use it as a filter material, but diatoms need that to live. So
Tina
no more
has a
sand,
question.
no more DE. Install a cartridge filter. Call it a friggin' day.
Done. So Tina says, question, people are now saying that if you add bicarbonate to a pool with algae, it will make the algae worsen. And then she also said 45-degree angle facelift. And then Kristen said, what about straining after yellow? Wait,
Staining.
Staining.
sorry. Staining. I was like, wait a minute. She put straining after yellow
Is
algae.
this is 2 different questions. So we
Yeah,
have
Two
Tina
different
adding,
questions.
Tina's
Question
adding
one.
bicarb at a 45-degree angle. And apparently that increases algae growth enough that Kristen needs to strain it from the pool. That's all I got out of that. So
Okay, question 1. people are now saying if you add bicarbonate to a pool with algae in it, will the algae get worse?
Why?
Yeah, I don't know why
It
it would get
doesn't-
worse when you add bicarb, because bicarb
Tina,
is
don't
going to be a
listen.
total
Tina,
acid.
I don't know who told you
I mean,
that,
if
but
it raises
don't,
the pH,
don't listen
maybe,
to those
but-
people.
In
Don't
one of our
listen.
episodes, we talked about the inability for algae to grow in salt and high salt content. So
Oh, we have two Kristens. Oh,
So
your
even
sister's
adding-
there.
Yeah,
Salt.
we have sister Kristen, and then we have
Sister Kristen, though the time.
and then the other
Oh my
Kristen.
God, stop it. You're not allowed to sing. No singing.
Hey. So
I sing
which
well,
shirt,
thank you.
which shirt is she wearing today?
Not a
Oh.
podcast shirt.
Do we even have podcast shirts?
It wasn't our podcast.
We do not have
No,
podcast
but
shirts.
we don't.
I
But
have this. I
Son
have
of a
my
bitch. We better
original.
change that.
so yeah, so bicarb going into the water, unless you drive the pH up to the point where the chlorine is less effective, I don't really see a correlation there. And you'd need so much bicarb to make that happen. If your pH was in a good range, it would be ridiculous. So probably not. I wouldn't listen to those people anymore. Now, what was the 45-degree angle question?
I think there's just positioning.
The return jets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The return jets
position
at
of the
45. Yeah, I think that's cool. Aim them about the pool so that way you get the best circulation. The beauty of it is that you can readjust those and readjust them and readjust them. Just keep trying until you get the right setting. If it ultimately turns out that you can't hit one spot no matter what you do, then let's start looking at some algicides. That's where the Blu-ray XL comes in, something like that, or that.
One thing I've seen people not use that could help with the circulation is the diverter valves at the bottom of the skimmer. There's a lot of people who don't understand those.
So why don't
Point.
you explain them, Kelly?
Okay, so a lot of people will just take the diverter valve out and toss it wherever, I've noticed. And with the diverter valve, you're able to pull water from the bottom of the pool and the top of the pool when you adjust the, what would you call it? Why do I want to call it a toggle switch?
Restrictor plate. Restrictor plate.
The flap at the bottom. We'll just call it a flap. If that is broken,
It could
you
be red, it could be blue. It could
Rudy,
be
God,
violet,
Jesus. All right, listen.
Dye,
Someone's getting kicked out of the chat.
It could be purple, it could be anything you like. It could be-
the flap,
Oh,
okay.
geez. Diverter valve. The
But yeah,
flap.
so when you
The
have
restrictor
that,
plate.
it will help you have better filtration. Like, just don't think it doesn't have a point.
My pool has it. I only use those though whenever they're the single line versus separated lines.
The one you had,
Yes.
was it red or blue or
I
My
painted
God,
it
I'm out of
neon
here.
pink.
pink?
Sorry.
No, but like yes, I agree. If you have separate lines, it's different. But when you have the older pools that already have poor circulation and they have those, please use them. That's just my point.
There's a lot of different things you can do. You can add an automatic pool cleaner.
It's
That
okay,
will help
Joel. It's
increase
just that I'm
your-
gonna have that song
does
stuck in my
help
head
for
for
sure.
weeks now.
because I keep reinforcing it every week.
Yes, exactly.
It didn't come up. It doesn't come up on tomorrow's podcast though.
I think it
Yeah.
does. I
Does
think
it?
it does. Yeah,
Huh.
I think you started singing it to me yesterday, actually.
Oh, I wasn't singing it to you. I was singing it to them. You just happened to be
Oh.
there.
All right. Well, you're talking
Plus,
to
you
me,
have.
so.
You're also the one that has the red, blue, green, purple microphone. So that,
Oh boy. Yeah,
shifts
but can you
colors
even
throughout.
see it with my?
Yes,
Yes.
you can see it.
Yes.
He's
Alright,
got the
back to
coolest
colors.
microphone.
I
and
know.
the colors change throughout the entire podcast. So,
Uh-huh.
if anything, you bring this upon yourself.
It's a
All
mood
right.
So,
mic.
Yeah.
everybody
Tells
watch
us what
Club
it.
mic.
mood she's in.
Wait. So everybody watch it. Is there anything particular y'all want us to touch point on, have issues with, talk about?
Joel wants to know who
Anything
sings
that y'all
that
can
song.
I encourage customers to leave their cleaners in to increase circulation and treat it when fighting yellow algae.
I agree.
I need
Yep.
to pick up a couple demo cleaners for some pools. That would be helpful.
And rent them.
Yeah, rent them. Yeah, and then
I've done
that
that.
would
with,
lead to possible sales. But
Yeah.
I've done
I've
that,
done that.
with auto levelers. Is rent those as well. So
I've done that
I'm
with
all for
robotic
renting
cleaners. Yeah.
I'm all for
Sells and
renting
robotic cleaners.
product. People want to rent them anyway. They buy them from you at the beginning of the season and try to return it after Labor Day. It's the same thing. It's just this way you know it's coming back. When are you
When
getting
you
the
getting the
pen?
pen?
I already
What
got
pen?
it.
Daryl has a pen question.
Oh, the
I already
pen
got
from
it.
the video.
Yeah, don't worry, I got it.
Daryl, as you are the first one to ask today, please do us a favor. DM us your address. Andrea will be mailing you an autographed pen
Oh shit.
that she has
Autographed pen.
pulled directly from a swimming pool on her route, and you will
Yeah,
get the
all right.
accompanying video. Mhm.
Yep.
Okay,
So that
I
way
didn't
we
know
can
about this, but
guarantee
there
it's-
you go.
We can guarantee its authenticity.
I told Andrea next time she does it, then she needs to do it in her bathing suit.
All right.
Kristen,
Sister
I've
Christian
been
has a
having
question.
issues,
Oh my God.
even with my pool RX and a few pools, it's driving me nuts. So, Kristen, have you checked the copper in that pool and metals? Because with pool RX, even with that's in there, if you haven't checked that copper level, you're gonna have issues.
Which are you meaning that you're still having a problem that with reoccurring mustard algae? Kristen?
Yes, she's having problems with mustard
Okay.
algae in her
Then
pools.
check the calcium hardness, see what you have there, and then we're going to have to start experimenting with flow, and we may have to try a couple of different things until we get it for that pool. But check the calcium hardness first. Start with that one, and we'll take it from
Why
there.
not metals? Every time I had issues with RX, it was always metals.
Because. Just because.
And
Yeah.
what did you do? Did you take it out, remove it?
Rudy has spoken.
Yeah, so I use
That
Damn
came
it,
up in
Rudy,
another
no.
group the other day. You saw
Oh yeah,
that.
that was fun. Yep.
No,
I didn't
so-
and I didn't do that. So, but because I would go
I
that
took it
route
out,
first
Tim.
because well,
Okay,
we already
thank you.
spoke about what mustard algae has to have.
because Rudy's just over
Diatoms-
talking me, that little shit.
Hey, diatoms have to have calcium, slow moving water, and silicates. So let's take away the things it has to have before we worry about what we've actually added to kill it. I'm a bigger fan of preventing than adding things to kill. So I'd rather just make sure that we set our pools up so those conditions don't exist initially, and then you don't need to add as much of those other products.
Rudy, you mentioned in one of our early episodes
Get
about
off the
salt, about algae's inability to grow in salt water.
Yes.
What about adding salt to even a non-salt pool?
Gandalf. I am Gandalf the blue.
Wait, we just gotta.
I could be Gandalf the red. Gandalf.
No,
the
it's
blue,
purple.
Gandalf the purple. So you could do that. You could do that. And actually, we have somebody who jumped in on one of our podcasts from up on Long Island, out in Long Island, southern Long Island, east. That way. East Coast of Long Island. There you go. He jumped in and he said he was going to try it. I hadn't heard back from him, but that is true. Freshwater algae doesn't grow very well in salt water. It certainly doesn't grow very well in brackish water. And the salt level you need to make water brackish is not that high. We're only looking at 1,200 parts per million for brackish water. So theoretically, if you establish the salt level of 1,200 parts per million, that would thwart the growth of green algae. 1,800 parts per million should make it a lot more difficult for diatoms, mustard algae, to get established and grow. And then cyanobacteria, much harder beyond 2,400 parts per million. Now, that could be, but we've not tried it. So I don't like to speak on things that I've not tried personally. But in theory, yes, you are correct. That should work. And we're not talking about having to install a salt cell, just talking about that elevated level of total dissolved solids, making it more challenging for algae to grow. They actually refer to that as TDS toxicity.
What about red algae?
Red algae is a bacteria that happens to live on whitewater mold. That's what that is. So you can't have red algae without water mold. What it is you end up with the white water mold, which is a biofilm similar to your black algae, which is a cyanobacteria biofilm. This is just more of a free floating schmutz. And that can also pick up some hitchhikers along the way, which is a bacteria. And this bacteria is red in color, and it turns that white water mold red. So
is that the same thing as the pink slime that you see like in toilets and bathtubs and stuff?
Yeah.
As long as it's in the water. There is pink. There's another type that this is often confused with that more people think that it actually is, but it can also grow out of the water. This can't. It's different. So
what are the chances of yellow mustard algae moving from pool to pool via nets and brushes all the time?
Easy peasy. All you got to do is
all the time.
move a wet brush.
Yeah.
you
So
brush
like,
See,
it
we
I
have
said
a
that and everybody
special-
started laughing at me.
No, so like I tell my guys, we have two brushes. We use one if a pool has algae. This is when I did cleaning, and they had one for pools that were fine, and they were only allowed to use that. That way, they're not cross contaminating, and then they would have to rinse them off and make them dishwash them.
I've heard of people
Bleach
pouring
'em.
chlorine on their brushes
Yeah,
in between
That
salts.
too. Yep.
Anytime you move a wet brush to another pool, a wet net, anything along those lines, if it's still wet, the odds are high. Now, as far as people being able to carry things from the beach to a swimming pool and give it an algae problem, if that's the saltwater beach, not so much, because again, saltwater things don't live in fresh water. We know that.
We have a
That's why-
huge
Sharks live in fresh water.
we have a
Only
huge
bull sharks.
tubing community in the ponds and rivers here. So I always tell customers who I know have kids that go tubing to not put those tubes in the pool or their suits.
Only bull sharks can live in both fresh and salt water successfully. And then but you know, you're not going to catch tuna up in, I don't know, Illinois. So it's just not going to happen. So unless somebody from Illinois jumps on now and said, nope, Rudy, we caught tuna yesterday.
I'm from Illinois, so
Nice
I can
idea.
confirm.
So yeah, so I mean that's the whole thing, and vice versa. Freshwater stuff doesn't grow in salt water very well either. That's why you've had a saltwater pool, you've had saltwater pools where the pump goes down or something goes down and it has to be off for a period of a couple of days. You've also had pools that that do not have a salt system in that go down. The pool without the salt system will always start to have algae before the pool with the salt system.
Unless the salt system wasn't working properly. But wait a minute.
No, it could
Salt
be
converts to
broken.
chlorine,
It died.
right?
It's all done. I'm talking about salt, though. I'm not even worried about the chlorine. We don't care about the chlorine. We're just talking about the total dissolved solids level. Algae don't like it. Freshwater algae don't like it. Saltwater algae love the shit out of it.
Yeah.
That's their jam.
Wait, is there salt?
It's their salt.
They got little salt gang signs and shit.
Oh God, that's hilarious.
All right.
Oh God.
That's been an hour of playtime. Anybody
Wow,
else
that
got
went
anything
fast.
else? It did go
No
fast.
shit.
This was a blast. Again, 1 year in the works, the Talking Pools podcast, all of your hosts together here, all in one place,
Yeah.
talking
Wow.
with
Happy anniversary.
one
I
another,
know.
saying hello.
Yeah,
Looking-
guys.
So are
I
we
don't think
doing
we-
lives once a year or once a month now?
Listen, baby steps, Tim, baby steps.
Okay. All
All
right.
right. So at that point, I think we're out. But everybody who did stop by, thank you for checking out what we had to say. Thank you for listening to the show. We all appreciate you guys very, very
Yes.
much. And we
Thank
enjoy
you.
doing this.
Absolutely.
And it's because of you that we do this. And, you know, it's cool. So
It's
be good.
amazing.
Be
Yeah, it's
good.
great having us
Stay
all
safe.
together.
Yeah, for
Listen
sure.
to our show tomorrow and then have a kick-ass Memorial Day weekend.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
everybody
right.
stay
Memorial
safe.
this weekend.
Yep. Have fun at your pool parties.
Enjoy.
go.
Yeah. Pineapples.
Bye.
Oh, Daryl. Love y'all.
Later, Daryl.
Aw. Bye, guys.
Where
Bye-bye.
are you? Hold on. There we go.
Rudy's got to figure out how to stop it.
I know how to stop it. I just got to find it.